Mehdi Tehranchi, welcome to the Predictable B2B Success Podcast. Great to have you on. Mehdi, you are the co-founder and CEO of KnowledgeNet AI, which, as I understand, is a platform that offers a streamlined AI engine that reveals valuable relationships, insights, and provides actionable intelligence. I thought this was particularly interesting given, I think, a bit of research I came across from Gartner, which said that more than half of successful AI pilots never make a deployment, resulting in unrealized value from AI investments. In addition to that, I know that a lot of B2B organizations face challenges when implementing AI, particularly in that, I believe, according to research, 16% of B2B companies currently only use predictive analytics or plan to intelligent forecasting tools in their sales processes. Data quality and volume limitations with B2B companies is also an issue. B2B companies having smaller customer data sets compared to B2C counterparts. Integration, of course, with legacy infrastructure and existing sales tools is another issue, as well as talent gaps and cost concerns and the uncertainty about ROI in general. So it's an interesting space that you're operating, especially when it comes to using AI to accelerate revenue growth. Just for those listening in, you're a CEO and you started KnowledgeNet AI in 2021, but prior to that, you had a nine-figure exit with your previous company, Notable Solutions, of which you were co-founder and CEO as well. You've been
guilty as charged,
recognized with multiple national awards, including Deloitte Technologies Fast 500, and a finalist for Entrepreneurs of the Year as well. I'm curious, given your journey today, what was it about the solution that KnowledgeNet AI is trying to solve that stood out to you from your experiences and drove you to create what it is today?
It's really a big question. And for me personally, relationships are huge, valuable assets that are not tapped into. And when you look at it as a foundational, untapped asset, you end up really trying to attack, and companies, B2B companies, are trying to attack their problems, just trying to solve top of the funnel issue or marketing spend issue, where they could be looking at the strength of that asset as a particular solution to their problem. And I think that gap is where KnowledgeNet comes in. I always say, what did AI change when you think about it fundamentally? AI changed one thing. To me, that is, knowing everything is now possible. OpenAI, take that as an example. Why were we amazed? Because you could ask anything, and it came back like a person answering that. Of course, it's in its infancy, it's trying to learn more, all the rest of this. But the one thing that is true is that now I have a person I can go to, a robot I can go to, that knows everything, from legal to human resource. So when you take a look at KnowledgeNet sits as your corporate knowledge brain. You feed it your emails, you feed it your web traffic, you feed it your financials, you feed it parts and product, technical information, and you have customers that have done that. Now hundreds of customers that are doing that. And now you can ask KnowledgeNet in private secured environment, anything. That's really what intrigued me, to answer your question. Knowing everything, knowing your team's connection, knowing how your team, your corporation has interacted with the prospect or a customer changes everything. Up to this point, we would send salespeople like lone warriors out there and say, go land that thing, go do business development, go open up that market.
Mm.
And here are the three tools that you get. You get LinkedIn, you get your CRM, and you get maybe a Zoom info in order to get the phone numbers, right? Without any prior knowledge how my customers interacted with me or who in my team perhaps can introduce me into them, or who went to college with that guy who I'm going to be meeting with. How do I prepare for that meeting? Now with knowledge, that's the connective tissue.
Mm.
It brings you all of that and presents to you and prepares you like a good assistant would, augmenting your work, enabling you to do better as a salesperson.
So would it be fair to say that this was born out of your early experiences as doing founder-led sales?
Yes. So we went through, just like any good startup, we went through the phases of product market fit. So just to give you a little bit of a background, so for the audience to know, the previous company I started were 3 people, and we started literally in a garage in Vienna, Virginia, and grew that to become 300, and ultimately became part of Voice of Siri, the nuanced communication platform. What we went through in achieving that was first product market fit. How do I get the right audience in front of my product? How do I adjust my product in order to solve a problem that makes sense for them? Once that is done, then the salespeople had the tools, the content, but they didn't have the ability to get in front of the right people. That experience, going through that cycle, keep pushing sales, but not getting results, was really in any entrepreneur's mind, right? In myself as well. So when we tried to apply AI into a corporate knowledge space, the first thing that popped out was sales. Sales can use all the information, the retained knowledge, and can do better using that retained knowledge. That's directly responsible. My experience is directly relatable as an entrepreneur, now on my 3rd company, in approaching this in a different way. I think our customers are seeing it, and the industry is opening up to it. There's plenty of AI solutions for sales. I think we're all looking at it now in a different way, and KnowledgeNet is creating a network of your team to help your sales team do better.
So just to be clear, it's not just a productivity solution, it's also providing insights and perhaps greater personalization in salespeople's approaches to various accounts, if I understand this correctly. Would that be correct?
There is the basic level, which we call it the interactive level, when you deploy KnowledgeNet.ai. First of all, KnowledgeNet.ai takes about 15 minutes to deploy. We made it so easy, and we make it available to you in your Chrome browser or your Edge browser. It enables you to do AI where you are rather than come yet to another application. Take advantage of us. But to answer your question, there is an ability for you, once you deploy it, to be interactive with it. For example, I go to a website and I can simply ask it, who in my team knows anybody in that company? And it comes up and says, there is 3 people. 2 of them went to college. One of them has had meetings with them. And the other one has just sent an email last week. Okay, so immediately at that interactive level, I got information that's useful about the customer prospect that I'm targeting. If I open that layer up, you're actually able to then automate some of these steps rather than go to each website and try to figure out. You can create a playbook. Who is my ideal customer profile? What titles? What are the problems that I run to with these customers? How do I ask questions and plug that into KnowledgeNet? Now I can go and say, here's a list. Which one of them are the best ones that I can approach first?
Oh.
So rather than going and getting a cold list of 5,000 names and try to put the spam cannon and spam all of them to see who comes back, you can actually take that 5,000 and say, according to this playbook and according to my connection, according to my CRM, we connect to 20 different CRMs. According to my CRM interactions, give me the 100. That's really worth my time.
Oh.
We call that AI Engage. It actually allows you to get a level better. Don't waste your time.
Oh.
Focus on this 500. Now, there is a ton of tools that we integrate in. You can ask it to write emails for you. You can, if I'm talking Vinay here, it can do a personality profile and then write the email according to your personality. So I'm not writing an email cold. I know Vinay is a very objective, to the point, no bullshit. I write an email with 3 bullet points and boom, he responds rather than a long email. So there is plenty other type of tools that kind of gives me ways of either interactively or automatically actually approach my sales target.
Certainly. I'd love to explore that in a bit. I'm also curious, given your journey to data, what would you say is your personal area of strength?
Sure. So in me personally,
Yep.
I love startups. I don't know what it is, bug that bit me. I have not only started multiple startups and the teams that I have been fortunate to have by my side as we grew that. I've also taken the opportunity to coach multiple startups and help them exit. My background is in electrical engineering. So I went through the whole master's and then postgraduate programs. I focus on the technology part, push to the business side, and that's a big transition. I see a lot of younger entrepreneurs who are trying to make that painful transition, and I have been able to help them. One of them was Option City, options trading in Chicago. They designed a trade desk that would allow them to trade futures, and I engaged with them for 3 years, helped them actually position the product, increase their sales, and get it to exit to Verisk. Jornal, a data signaling company, where they took consumer behavior, turned it into signals for insurance companies or financial companies. And then after 3 years working with that team, we successfully exited Jornal. So that's another area where I enjoy actually working with companies to actually focus them on how to get closer to that fabulous exit condition they're looking for.
So in that area of strength, what would you say is something that businesses don't know but should?
Sure. So really being able to bring your team together so you can draw on your team's strength and adjust your strategy based on market condition, customer demand, and adjust your team so you can best address your market and your customer needs. I think this is where a lot of failures happen. You're not focused on your customers' big issues. You're looking at product and technical product, kind of solution waiting for a problem to happen rather than the other way around. So there is a ton of those type of areas where companies can keep focusing on what actually is the customer pain, focus on the pain, and then turn around and bring in the right talent to solve the problem.
So well, when you say you need to bring in the right talent, are you suggesting that founders should really be having this mindset early on in the piece, or is it something that they could transition into given where they're at a particular journey?
It takes phases. Different phases needs different time. One recommendation to anyone who's listening is to find people that have made their mistakes on somebody else's payroll. Right. So experience is critical, but the right experience that have gone through the phases you're experiencing in a prior life will enable that individual to come and all of a sudden bring all that experience into your, and don't make the same mistakes. I know as an entrepreneur, we value growing our teams, growing with them, but part of that growth is to bring out experience, talent, so that we can learn from who has been there before and not made the same mistakes. So it's very critical to reach out to be able to bring good talent into your team.
I wonder with the evolution of AI, as rapid as it has been ever since certainly OpenAI came up into the space, how would you recommend people approach it? Because there is, I guess, something to be said for wanting to adapt and to things like OpenAI and its evolution in terms of implementation within an organization or current. But there's also the fact that perhaps there isn't quite enough experience or people who have had experience in this space to bring a different mindset and viewpoint necessarily to your particular company and perhaps in the industry. So that's, I guess, well, part of one question. The other part being, would you say that we're on a short timeline in terms of being able to adapt to the changes that AI brings, or be relegated to perhaps the irrelevant basket, so to speak?
Good question. So on the first question, there is definitely a shortage of experience, especially for corporations who are trying to implement and change their technology stack. My recommendation on that is go with the products that proven success in the market. So there is the talent. I use, with your permission, KnowledgeNet as that example. We have brought in AI engineers, AI experts in order to create a solution, get out into the market. We have now close to 350 customers that are using it and growing with it. We have 20 CRM partners who are using our application. We are within their ecosystem. That represents a cluster. We represent a cluster of AI expertise have proven by the customers to actually be in the market. If you are trying as a leader to recreate that solution yourself, it's going to be pretty hard. It's good. That's where I think your opening statement was a large percentage of AI projects actually take out a lot of funding and they fail. That's exactly that area where you can prevent. You can take a look at your CRM, take a look at other applications that are working around that ecosystem, use them and use their expertise. Is a lot of fund saving if you actually tap into it. They are expensive, they are not cheap, but they're actually saving you because the ROI on that investment is huge. The area where I think where the failures are really critical is where you apply it is important. People think this is all security environment. It is not. I have seen large organizations, financial organizations, just use ChatGPT. Unless they know what their employees are doing, that's actually the greatest leak of information that is going to come out next, because financial information that you feed openly to a AI application like ChatGPT, it's not secure. It's like teaching somebody, and that somebody can be used by anyone. Well, now all of a sudden your secrets are out. So part of what we have to focus on is how to put the security around. KnowledgeNet gives you that capability so that you can deploy this across your enterprise, in your HR, in your sales, in your customer success, without the worry. We are SOC 2, Phase 2 compliant now for 3 years. We have ability to say, you can run in the Amazon servers in a secured environment that is your environment. Those type of experiences also, besides knowing AI, knowing that your information is not compromised, is very critical.
In effect, your platform, I guess more broadly suggesting is that while the use of AI is certainly helpful in many contexts, we really need to be developing custom large language models that we can apply to specific instances within our organizations for security reasons, not sharing
Yes.
sensitive information that competitors can use, etc. But also to develop unique applications that make sense to, I guess, particular nuances of your sales processes, for example, and other processes as well within an organization. If so you're nodding, I take it you're in agreement.
Yes, I give you quite a bit of astonishing example. One of our customers is a team of sales engineers. One of the sales engineers was the super duper expert on the parts. They make bearings, ball bearings. They have 20,000 part IDs. And this particular sales engineer has been there for 15 years. He was an expert to answer questions. Ball bearing now is using inside of food equipment. Is this safe to be used in a food? Can it be running 24/7 at the high heat? Et cetera, et cetera. So when a customer was coming, the first question was, hey, can I use, and which bearings can I use in this equipment, whether it's a jet engine or a food processing, right? Unfortunately, that individual was super expert, got pancreatic cancer, passed away. So all that knowledge, his name was JR, and JR was gone, unfortunately. The team was like, who do we go to? How do we get that answer, right? They came to us. They said, can we, your application, actually gain that knowledge? And we looked at it, we said, sure. Where is that now? It's in emails. It's inside their product catalog. It's inside their CRM. And we fed that into the KnowledgeNet instant and fine-tuned it. They now can't have, and they call this particular large language model, as you were referring to, their own instance of the large language model. Besides using it in sales and so on, they call this as Ask JR. And Ask JR, you can say, food processor is going to run 24/7 at high heat. What do you recommend, JR? And it comes back and says, 3 ball bearings. These are the pros and cons. This is the food safety information. This, just what they had before with JR. And this is the CEO was like blown away with that. And he had tears in his eyes, literally, saying, Ask JR is really effective for my team. Imagine that team literally gain knowledge, the 20 to 30 to 40% the time they had to spend to research the parts, 20,000 parts, was lost. They gave. That company is expanding AI deployments in KnowledgeNet around multiple projects. But that goes exactly to what you said. You were spot on. Use KnowledgeNet as a specific custom large language model that solves a problem in a secured environment for you and gain efficiencies as a result. How long does it take? If that bearing company manufacturer was going to hire a bunch of AI engineers to actually do this, years. And they would fail, I can guarantee you. How long did it take us? About 2 months. And they're using.
Brilliant example. Thank you for that. So we've touched upon the fact that augmented intelligence can certainly drive the pipeline velocity in perhaps ways that traditional systems. I'm curious, are there other aspects to using augmented intelligence that would cater to building relationships in ways that most people have struggled to date? If so, what does that look like?
Sure. So definitely there is. Augmented intelligence, we also touch on actionable intelligence. Two aspects of what we call the knowledge AI, artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence, and actionable intelligence. When you turn into actionable intelligence, it results into better, faster response, which strengthens your relationships. Ability, for example, to use examples. I think those
Absolutely.
are the best things to do,
Yeah.
right? So, conversation we're having right now. An integration into note takers. And after we are done, let's say this was a customer call. Knowledge that is that note, those notes, and you can ask it, could you draw me a 2-page proposal based on these conversations? And in a minute, it's going to spit a 2-page proposal with direct quotes of what Vinay said. And this is the pain. This is the solution. This is the pricing. I review it. I did this yesterday, actually, with one of my sales leaders, and we're looking at a particular customer. And this customer makes hand dryers for schools, for anybody, but he had a particular niche in the education market. And within minutes after conversation, I see the sales leader come back and says, proposal. It has direct customer code. It has what we can solve. And next day, he was amazed. He was like, this is exactly what I asked for. This is exactly what I can do. He has won a contract, but the contract doesn't really allocate this as a done deal, but he can go to those schools in those areas. And without any more validation, he can actually, if they need it, they can purchase it. It's a purchasing right type of contract. Actually, he has a list of 10,000 names. He needed to get to the decision makers. And relationship intelligence is exactly what goes to get. What? So this is an example of actionable intelligence. When you ask, how does this impact building new relationships and strengthening those relationships? It's turning augmentation into actionable intelligence, which is part of what KnowledgeNet.
How would you set up, I guess, markers or metrics, if I could put it that way, to ensure that the information that's being fed into a particular application actually meets the outcomes or objectives that you're looking for. Because it can seem, for at least some of us, to be quite a large space to operate in, and having filters to keep our focus and ensure that outcomes are achieved is certainly important.
Sure. So there are multiple different ways to make sure outcomes are achieved. One, always start with a benchmark. Where are you now?
Mhm.
If you're applying this to your sales, where are you now? Okay. You have, for example, a customer who says, I send out 10,000 emails and I get a 0.1% response. Okay. So that's my benchmark. Now from that benchmark, you can do measurements. Am I feeding it the right information? And if I do, what do I expect? So I set up a goalpost, 3% response. Okay, so that's a 30x improvement over my previous. If I have that goalpost and I start iterations that makes improvement
Mhm.
into that process, then I can make sure that my inputs are driving towards that goal. So KnowledgeNet comes in and at its basic level, generic deployment, let's say it takes the 0.1 to 1%. Okay, that's a 10x improvement, but I need 3x more. How do I do that? Let's try to connect it to your web traffic and analyze who's coming to your web. Those companies who are coming to your website, find contacts, find the relationship, and go back and market to them. Oh, added another percentage. As soon as I do that loop, it's a machine learning algorithm. So it actually learns, oh, when I do this, I just went from 1% to 2%. Now, what do I need to do in order to feed it to go to 3%? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And through those methods, you can build those layers of saying, okay, web traffic really did this. How do I layer this? Apollo contact layer in order to fine tune who I'm going to or give it a playbook. My playbook can teach my salespeople to go for another 1% increase in. So that there are multiple inputs, and as you said, it's overwhelming. But there are like templatized approach that you can take in order to see these increases and measure them explicitly as you go forward.
Very interesting, and perhaps it'd be helpful to make a couple of distinctions here. If I'm hearing you correctly, you're suggesting that the more knowledge that you give platforms such as yours, the better the responses will be. And using an example of sales, for example, it will lead to better outcomes given the breadth and depth of knowledge it has. That would suggest to me that certainly connecting a platform like yours to a number of channels would make sense. And it raised the question, at least in my mind, does that mean that like a position like Chief Revenue Officer will now be outdated? And I wonder if you could speak to that, because the other part of my brain says there needs to be a distinction between strategy and tactics. I'm not sure if augmented intelligence and artificial intelligence is quite there yet in terms of being able to develop strategy with the overall company objectives as opposed to making more tactical plays.
Sure. I believe it's going to add efficiency and productivity to all levels, from your sales development representative all the way to your CRO. Now they can rely on a AI recommended pathway, which is smarter for them. And if they don't adopt today at all levels, and your CRO and your account executive and they push this back, as we have seen past generations do. This is AI. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I know better.
Mm-hmm.
They will be eliminated. I would give it another year or two before those who have chosen not to understand, play with, take advantage of, or at the higher level,
Mm-hmm.
change their strategy to incorporate AI into their strategy. That's the CRO that needs to do that. They will not have a job. Their
Mm-hmm.
job will be replaced by somebody that has done it and knows how to take advantage of. It's at a very funny level. I mentioned this to someone and they understood it. I certainly am. I remember the first day that I saw a calculator as an engineer that was like, what? This thing can do things faster. Just imagine if somebody says, I'm never going to use a calculator and I'm going to do all the math myself. I'm going to figure out how to send a rocket to the moon with a paper and pencil. Good luck. It's exactly that type of it. So it's, I remember my dad used to say, if you use a calculator, you will never learn the math. The case. It helped me do better math and be faster with my math. I've gone through those experiences with my own kids and their use of computers and their use of social networks. I wouldn't be telling them, don't use social networks. I'd just be careful. Get out there, use the groups, use the rooms, but learn and adopt and adapt, right? To the newest and latest technology. Same thing with AI. Augment and actionable intelligence will be the calculators of the previous
Mm-hmm.
generations. And if they don't adapt and adopt them, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. You raise an interesting point there, speaking about generational perspectives of technology and how best to use them. And I'm curious, given some of the perhaps hesitancy, if I could use that word, in investing in AI capabilities that will provide an ROI, boost overall business performance, as opposed to using tried and tested tools that have had perhaps a longer time in the market. How are you speaking to the mind shift and the heart shift that is required to use platforms like yours?
And it's an area we focused on a lot.
Mhm.
During the first year, at least, we were super focused on making it as simple, as easy as possible. We didn't want to be yet another application.
Mhm.
We want to be in the browser where the users are. So if it turns out the application that your vendor or your company is adopting requires you to do a lot of learning, I would go back to the drawing board and take a look at what else can they choose. As I said, it's critical to not only make it simple, but
Mhm.
make it broadly available. As then I use another example, they are in aircraft maintenance, one of our customers, and set of 25 executives started using it for executive decision making, the KnowledgeNet. And immediately within, I would say 6 months, less than 6 months, their decision was to deploy it across 600 of their
Mm.
employees. The reason is because it was done without any loss of time in those employees' day that
Mm.
they were using. It was deployed in the background, then staged in training, then they learned, and it's so simple for them to use that literally it in their browser. And it is sitting on top of their Salesforce, their product catalog, it's not just in their CRM or just in their product or just in their HR. Is sitting on top of the whole thing. So those are the attributes. If anybody is looking for adopting AI, simplicity is critical. Deployment time is critical. Security, ability for it to be secure is critical. And I think those attributes are critical for if they are running to something that is open, doesn't have security, and I can use ChatGPT every day and doesn't take me that long to use it, but is totally non-secure unless you have somebody that has established that security around it. So those are critical attributes to be looked at. And we have solved that in Knowledgenet in order to make it viable solution for the large corporations.
Sure. I was wondering, as you were saying that in terms of driving revenue growth at KnowledgeNet.ai, are you actually seeking out champions within organizations, or do you use partnerships to gain a foothold, so to speak, within potential client accounts?
Very good question. We are an old channel company. So we do heavily rely on your trusted channel that has been working with you. You have been, it's perhaps a CRM or a CRM integrator. And we rely on having those integrations and the capability as working within your ecosystem naturally, rather than being new to everything. So we do go through your trusted integrator. We would love to be part of your CRM deployment. We are in 20 different CRMs ecosystem. You can download us from Salesforce to HubSpot and the rest of those ecosystems. So we do look for working within your environment, working with your integrators and having those trusted individuals that you already rely on to be the source of information.
I'm curious, given the number of people a number of platforms that are building out integrations and looking at developing those partnerships, how are you standing out from the mix? Because it is quite a crowded space these days.
Yeah, absolutely. The critical part of differentiator for us is being data agnostic. So if you're going to entertain having a proposal writing AI and a human resource AI and a sales tech AI, then you're going through the same pain 3 times. Same security questions, same validations, same. In case of Knowledgenet, one of our fundamental design rules was we want to be able to sit on top of any type of data. We want to be data agnostic. So you can feed it your email, your web traffic, your contact information, your meeting notes. And in such, you don't have to go through, hey, can this be applied to my sales? Hey, no, I need it on we are a platform AI that you can plug into what we call organizational AI. You can feed your employee handbook into Knowledgenet and it starts answering employee questions and help them be on-ramp. Feed the product catalog, just like the bearing manufacturers example that I used a few minutes ago, and it starts answering your technical issues. And plug it into your playbook, sales playbook, and it helps your sales team to get on-ramped and solve their challenges in getting closer to contact using the corporate relationships. So that's what Knowledgenet's advantage is. Of course, you can go to your individual sliver of problem in each one of these organizations and get an AI solution for those, but I think that's shooting yourself in the leg
Mm.
multiple times.
So, so with this increased use of AI, would you say that there are perhaps certain skill sets that companies should look at investing in across their people? So a recent set of discussions has been around prompt engineering as a key skill into the future. What would you recommend to companies wanting to?
Sure. So prompt engineering is really a critical aspect of development of new solutions and new AI-based
Mhm.
technology. I would not say at every skill set or job you need prompt engineer. Prompt engineering is pretty difficult and pretty expensive. But I would say people should know that how AI impacts a particular job,
Mhm.
whether you're in sales, HR, look for solutions that will solve mundane tasks. This is the rule that we use.
Mhm.
If salesperson has to call every day, that's a mundane task. Can an AI solve that problem? If they have to research companies, that's a mundane task. It takes an hour every day. Can I gain that hour having an AI do the research for me before I pick up my cup of coffee? So they don't need to be prompt engineers, but they do need to realize certain tasks can be done more efficiently with AI and be able to be smart about using the AI and the right AI to solve the problem.
Mm.
As long as they have that experience and they are able to say, I can use AI in a secured fashion, I should be able to solve that problem. I should be able to train my existing employees to use AI, or when I add a new employee, have you done it before? Have you made your AI mistakes on somebody else's payroll? Come and join me so
Mhm.
you can add that experience to my team. That's the approach I would suggest we should.
Um, I'm trying to get a little bit of clarity in my mind here. Are you suggesting that while things like prompt engineering might be valuable to a point, perhaps the realization and the use of AI to provide actionable insights uh, that can move your organization closer to the overall objectives is perhaps a bit more critical? And along that line of thinking, I guess the picture that comes to my mind is that of using AI, given all the data that it now has access to, almost like a business intelligence tool.
But to bit above business intelligence, with the prompting of the AI, the user has to know, necessarily called prompt engine, but user has to know how to ask those
Mhm.
questions. But the smart tool actually gives the templatized approach. So you should be able to be, say, if you want to get started, here are 3 prompts that I suggest. You start with those prompts, you modify it a little bit, and then I give you another suggestion.
Mhm.
If you want to choose A, B, or C, then you start. So it can do its own prompt engineering, so to speak,
Okay.
to help you to get better at it. I'm not suggesting you should not know how prompts work, but you do need
Mhm.
to. But the tool itself should make it easier for you to actually do this. What I'm emphasizing is realization that where AI is effective.
Mhm.
Take any individual and make them smarter by eliminating their mundane tasks. Nobody wants to do those mundane tasks
Mhm.
anymore. And the younger generations are either bothered by it even more. They are bothered by you asking them to do the mundane tasks because they come out of college
Mhm.
realizing, hey, there is ChatGPT. Why am I doing this?
Oh,
Why am I writing emails when I can ask ChatGPT to write me an email, knowing what the company wants you to write about and how you want to be write about? So there is that transition in the older generation, the management, to say, it's okay to use that calculator to do math. Okay to use ChatGPT, but let's use the company's choice of ChatGPT,
oh,
which is a defined way with a playbook and with a instruction and within the boundaries that the corporate wants to use.
hmm.
So that's where a good, smart AI engine can help your employees do better and help them understand the use of AI within your framework
Hmm.
of your enterprise.
Uh,
That's where KnowledgeNet comes in, ability for you to actually capture it.
so we've spoken about perhaps using examples of companies that have had a bit of a track record in order to maximize the use of AI implementation. And I'm wondering for startups who perhaps don't have a lot of these playbooks and data sets that more established companies would have, would an early adoption of AI as they go into this whole product market fit exercise also allow them to develop playbooks and perhaps leverage insights in order to better reduce the learning curve to find.
Yeah, 100%. So startups specifically, if they're not on their toes and learn the AI and apply the AI, because they don't have all the red tape
Mhm.
that a larger organization, they should be able to do it faster, do it better, and bring AI into their infrastructure. I firmly believe that the job of a developer, even for developing software
Mhm.
for a product, if you were a startup trying to create a new app, that job has dramatically changed. Where you used to have a room full of developers trying to understand what the requirements are,
Mhm.
now you can actually define what you want done and have the coding done in minutes,
Mhm.
and then worry about, did I solve the problem, and iterate through them faster than the room who's trying to find and understand what are you talking about.
Yeah.
So the iteration and the stack of developers just got shrunk,
Mm.
and the speed at which you can actually test and fail became much faster and less costly. So it's important at each level to understand AI is there to help us. How would we now use AI? Actually do the job faster and better,
Mhm.
right? At every level.
Yeah. Brilliant. With this idea of using AI to not just enable, but to hasten revenue growth within companies, do you find there's perhaps a couple of areas that doesn't get talked about very much? If so, what would they be?
There are three major areas within the sales specifically,
Mhm.
if you're focusing on sales. There is area of marketing. How do I get my product out there in front of the audiences? How do I get more traction,
Mhm.
awareness? And is my marketing spend effective? I think that's a huge area that AI is going to be effective for
Hmm.
the CMOs, right? This, the CROs of the world are looking at it in terms of the speed of the pipeline. Now that I got the lead, how efficiently can I put the proposal in front of how successful I am?
Mhm.
Can I get 10% better rate my opportunities to close? The CROs is augmenting my sales team so they're more efficient in moving the pipeline to closure. The third area is really your customer success.
Mhm.
The customer will call to you and says, how do I do this? And the opportunity you might realize through an upsell program between the customer success and the sales team and the marketing team.
Mhm.
So the AI between these three can really be effective. Now the customer doesn't feel ignored or left behind. The answers are to the point. The answers are clear. And if there are opportunities, they light up on the radar,
Mhm.
move to the sales team to close, right? Those tasks were dropped on the floor. They're not paying attention or they're not done right. The customer satisfaction increases, the upsell increases, the marketing increases. In that order, the sales really helps. The AI really helps in the three different centers of sales: marketing, pipeline speed, and upsell.
So that certainly speaks to perhaps driving revenue growth. But in terms of implementation, balancing short-term gains versus longer-term strategy and planning, uh, is there perhaps a perspective that you would suggest to some executive leaders take in order to find the right balance?
Sure. So, in order to get the longer term gains and projections
Mhm.
to match how the market is looking for you to grow, I think AI can be part of that strategy in aligning your sales motion and your product to the demand forecast that you see. I use an example. For example, if you are trying to be a better channel company and your workforce and your hiring says, I can open up 2 channels in a year. I think with use of AI, you can actually say, I can move that to 4 or even 6.
Hmm.
Why? Because I have inefficiencies that I can eliminate in that process using AI. I can return to those channels faster. I can create training programs that are better. I can have answers to the channel's questions more decisively, clearly. So in a longer term, in a longer term, if I deploy AI, I can move from having only 2 channels a year to 6 channels a year
Mhm.
with the same resources that are managing the channel. So there are those type of longer term reasonable impact you can develop through the efficiencies that you.
Hmm. Right. We've covered a bit of ground here, maybe I would say, but given what we've discussed so far, if you were listening to this episode, what would you say would be your top takeaway?
Think definitely understand your corporate AI strategy is.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have your grounds as far as security and privacy covered. So it's not ad hoc and ChatGPT, it's really a secured version. Use it to focus on eliminating manual tasks and increasing your efficiency, organization by organization. And if you can do that using one platform rather than multiple platforms, then focus on that one platform.
Yeah.
Do it for your HR, do it for your customer success, do it for your marketing, but do it on one platform rather than multiple.
And if listeners and those watching are curious and want to find out more or connect with you, where would you suggest they head to?
I'm sorry, there was a problem. I didn't hear you.
Sure.
Can you?
I'll repeat the question. If listeners are curious and want to find out more or connect with you, where would you recommend they head to?
KnowledgeNet.ai is the website they should go to. I would definitely suggest for them to also check just general market analysis around AI and how AI can be used organizationally. Organizational AI is a key term I see being used.
And is there a social media handle that you tend to prefer?
We do use quite a bit all LinkedIn. We do use KnowledgeNet AI on LinkedIn
Okay,
and
yeah.
post quite a bit of success stories and other information on that platform.
Okay, which we'll include links to those in the show notes. Mehdi, thanks again for doing this. It's much, much appreciated.
Sure.